Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. I've been meaning to get my Lake Eufaula MLF Big 5 Pro Circuit recap. I'm going to talk about baits, techniques, mindset, different things like that, my ideas coming into the event, and then obviously how I finished up for the event. Made it into the semifinals, made it to day 3. I ended up finishing 32nd in the event with 35 pounds, 4 ounces for 3 days. Before we get into the details, I want to say go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. Obviously, I love seeing the comments and everyone interacting and also sharing your thoughts with me about the videos that I'm putting out there. With that, let's go ahead and get right into it. Practice was difficult at Lake Eufaula. It seemed like initially you could get bites, but there weren't very many good quality ones. And it didn't seem like it was lake-wide. It seemed like it was some here and some there. And of course, that's just about every event you're going to hit. There's always some hot spots on the lake. And I think going into it, everyone was thinking this is going to be a ledge fest. This is where it's going to happen offshore, brush piles, and different things like that. And some guys caught them that way. However, the majority of the guys that made the top 10 fished shallow, and I did as well. Again, practice was pretty tough because it seemed like you could get bit, and mainly what I was doing to get bit and catch a few fish each day and kind of get a feel for what the lake was like was going for that shad spawn. Early in the morning till about 9 o'clock, that shad spawn was pretty much going in certain areas of the lake. They weren't necessarily easy to catch. You could tell the shad spawn had kind of been going for a while, and those fish had been, those fish that were on the shad spawn, those fish that were up there taking advantage of the shad in the shallow water, those fish were, they'd seen the pressure, so they were leery. They were educated by the pressure that they'd received prior to us getting there, so to speak. I kind of felt like going into this event, it was going to take a lot of weight to do really well, but I feel like we were kind of post-spawn mixed with the shad spawn and going into early summer patterns, but the fish quite weren't totally off the beds and they quite weren't totally offshore yet. So we're kind of in that limbo period, which can be kind of tough. It can kind of be a time when you can junk fish a bunch. But for me, it was a matter of each day of the tournament going out and trying to capitalize on that shad spawn. I think I caught 1 fish on top water throughout the 3 days of competition, making it towards the semifinals. The star performer was a striking swim jig and a rage craw, and they're white on white, and I was swimming it in and around those water willow. And that was really the key for me. It wasn't just like all over the place, but if I could get around that water willow and swim that jig in and through there, I could get a reaction strike. Every once in a while on the swim jig, I could get a bite just going down the bank, but for the most part, you'd have that emergent grass or water willow up there, and if I could swim it through the limbs and leaves and different things like that, those fish were positioned in and around them because the shad will spawn on vegetation and rock and different things like that, pieces of cover that are in the water, and they were definitely spawning on the water willow and any kind of emergent grass that was in the lake. So I could swim that white jig in and around that and catch a few fish. So that's what I was doing, number 1. Through practice, I was trying to figure out what I could do to catch more fish after the shad spawn quit, because you still have quite a bit of day that you've got to really be competitive. And once that bite kind of tapered off, it was kind of hard. It was hard to get a bite. In practice, I could get bit on docks, but they would just be either small or sub keepers, and then you might get a great big one. I actually caught a 6-pounder skipping a striking jig under docks, and I thought, that could be the thing that I needed to do. And I thought maybe if I fished enough docks, I could actually, maybe catch enough weight and go through enough numbers to actually get the kind of weight that I needed. Because again, at this point, I'm still thinking it's going to take a lot of weight. Not a lot of guys were catching a lot of weight after day 1, and that's kind of when I went, okay, it's not taking a lot of weight. But before the event, before day 1 of competition, I wasn't exactly sure what it was going to take. So there was that kind of mystery, and it usually is a little bit of degree of mystery as you proceed into the competition days. But going into day 1, I wasn't sure whether I was going to go down lake and skip jigs on docks or I was going to go upriver, because during practice, I could get a few bites punching matted vegetation, specifically matted hyacinth. And so I was, in practice, I was just going along with an 1.5 ounce, Strike King tour grade tungsten weight, and Strike King braided line, 50-pound test tour grade braid, and I was pegging it, and I was actually using a little kind of a custom-made little skirt there in front of my rage bug, and that color is called Bama Bug, and I was rigging it with a 5/0 owner jungle flipping hook right there. And you know, I would just go along and punch and punch and punch, and you would not get a lot of bites, but they were better quality than some of the other ones that you could catch, you know, fishing or doing anything else. And obviously, like I said, it wasn't easy to get bit. So this was kind of my backup, or not my backup, this was my plan B coming out of the gates after the shad spawn kind of dissipated. I did all my punching on a Lew's Super Duty with a Lew's Pro TI 7:5 to 1 gear ratio, and again 50-pound Strike King tour grade braid. I had 2 setups. This is actually the newer design going forward for 2021. I really like this. It's an all black. This was the older model here. I'm still using both, but yeah, this is the Super Duty 3. Actually, it's called the Super Duty 3. Now it's just called the Super Duty. And it's a 7'11" heavy action. So that's what I was using to punch with. On day 2, I said, you know, I think this water's a little clearer. The water continued to fall, making that shad spawn a little more sketchy. And I thought, you know, I've got to really press hard with the punching rig. And I went to a Strike King Rage bait. And this is a newer bait the last couple years. This is the punch bug. I went with a lighter weight and a green pumpkin punch bug. And that punch bug is a little compact bait. It's got ribs on it. And I was using this in and around some of the areas where the water was a little bit clearer. Again, that water was dropping every day of the tournament. And so it felt like the more it dropped, the clearer the water got. I think initially the water was a little dingier, a little dirtier, had a little bit more color, a little off color. And so as the tournament went on, I said, you know, I think I really need to make an adjustment in my color presentation. Not that they wouldn't eat the Bama Bug, but ended up going with a little bit lighter weight, a 1 ounce. I was going with 1.5 ounces on the other rig. And then, of course, actually, I believe that's